Let's talk about the amazing mitochondria, the power plants of our cells. These tiny parts are really important for us to live. They're the ones that make sure our cells have the right amount of energy to work. Imagine a really busy city with lots of things happening all at once. The city is full of energy, and everywhere you look, something's going on. New buildings are being built, trucks are moving things around, and people are busy with their day. It's like a big web of activity, and it needs a constant supply of energy to keep going. All of this needs power, right? Without a good source of electricity, the city would come to a standstill. Lights would go out, machines wouldn't work, and life would become very difficult. Now, think of your body like a city, and your cells like all the buildings in it. Each cell is like a tiny factory, doing different jobs to keep your body working properly. Each of these cells needs a constant flow of energy to do its job, and that's where mitochondria come in. They're like the power plants inside our cells, making sure there's always enough energy available wherever and whenever it's needed. We often call mitochondria the powerhouses of the cell because they make most of the cell's energy. This energy comes in the form of a molecule called ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate. You can think of ATP as the fuel that powers everything our cells do. Just like a power plant sends electricity to a city, mitochondria make ATP, which gives energy to all the things our cells need to do to keep us alive and functioning. Without ATP, our cells wouldn't even be able to do the simplest things. From moving our muscles to even thinking our thoughts, ATP is the energy source that makes it all happen. Every time we move or think, we're using the energy that ATP provides. These tiny parts of our cells are really good at turning the food we eat into energy. They use a bunch of complicated steps to break down nutrients and change them into energy our cells can use. Without mitochondria, our cells wouldn't be able to do even the most basic things, and life as we know it wouldn't exist. They're super important for us to live, making sure every cell in our body has the energy it needs to work properly. What's interesting is that mitochondria aren't just in human cells. They're in almost all living things, from plants to animals, which shows how important they are in the world of biology. Where mitochondria came from is also really cool. There's a theory called the endosymbiotic theory, which says that mitochondria used to be bacteria that lived on their own. But then, they teamed up with early cells and became a part of them, giving those cells a reliable source of energy. Mitochondria are always changing, splitting apart, and joining together to match the energy needs of the cell. This helps them adjust to changes in the cell's environment and energy requirements. Another special thing about mitochondria is that they have their own DNA, separate from the DNA in the cell's nucleus. This mitochondrial DNA is passed down from mothers to their children and is really important for the mitochondria to work right. The number of mitochondria in a cell can be different depending on how much energy the cell needs. For example, muscle cells, which need a lot of energy, have more mitochondria than other types of cells. To sum it all up, mitochondria are like the unsung heroes of our cells, working non-stop to provide the energy we need for life. They're truly the power plants of our cells, making sure every cell in our body can do its job. Let's take a closer look at mitochondria, a tale of two membranes. Mitochondria are special parts of our cells with a unique design that helps them do their job of making energy. They have not one but two membranes, and these membranes create different sections inside: the outer membrane, the intermembrane space, the inner membrane, and the matrix. The outer membrane acts like a gatekeeper, deciding what can go in and out of the mitochondria. It has special proteins called porins, which are like doors that let small molecules pass through. You can think of these porins as security guards checking IDs at the entrance to a building. Now, the inner membrane is where the real action happens. This membrane has lots of folds and surrounds the mitochondrial matrix. It's also where the protein complexes responsible for making ATP are located. These folds, called cristae, give the inner membrane more space for energy production, making ATP production super efficient. Let's talk about ATP production, fueling the cellular engine. Mitochondria are the main places where ATP, the energy currency of cells, is made. They do this through a two-part process: the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain. The Krebs cycle, also called the citric acid cycle, is a series of chemical reactions that happen in the mitochondrial matrix. This cycle acts like a furnace in our cells, breaking down glucose, a type of sugar we get from food, into smaller molecules and releasing energy. This released energy is then picked up by electron carriers, which are like tiny delivery trucks, and taken to the electron transport chain located within the inner mitochondrial membrane. Beyond energy, the multifaceted roles of mitochondria. While making ATP is what they're known for, mitochondria are like the multitaskers of our cells. These tiny powerhouses do a lot more than just make energy. They're involved in many other important jobs that keep our cells and our bodies healthy and working properly. These versatile organelles are involved in a surprising number of cellular processes, including something called programmed cell death, or apoptosis, and calcium homeostasis. But wait, there's more. Apoptosis, or programmed cell death, is a carefully controlled process that's crucial for maintaining a healthy balance of cells in our bodies. Without apoptosis, our bodies wouldn't be able to get rid of cells that are damaged, old, or potentially harmful. Think of it like a demolition crew for our cells, safely removing old, damaged, or unwanted cells. This process makes sure that our tissues stay healthy and functional. Mitochondria play a crucial role in this process by releasing signaling molecules that tell the cell to start apoptosis when necessary. These signals make sure that cell death happens in a controlled and efficient way. Calcium is an important signaling molecule that's involved in many cellular processes, from muscle contraction to nerve impulse transmission. It acts like a messenger, carrying signals from one part of the cell to another. Mitochondria act as calcium regulators, taking in and releasing calcium ions to keep a stable environment within the cell. This regulation is vital for things like muscle contraction, where the right calcium levels are needed for muscles to work properly. This delicate balance is crucial for cells to function correctly. Without the mitochondria's role in calcium regulation, cells wouldn't be able to maintain the right conditions for their various activities, which could lead to problems and diseases. In addition to these roles, mitochondria are also involved in other critical cellular functions, like making certain hormones and regulating metabolic pathways. They work together with other organelles to ensure that the cell operates as a team. By participating in these diverse processes, mitochondria help to coordinate the cell's activities and ensure that it responds appropriately to changes in its environment. Their many roles highlight how complex and sophisticated our cells are. The fact that mitochondria can adapt to different conditions and perform a wide range of functions shows how important they are in cellular biology. They're not just the powerhouses of the cell, but also its regulators, coordinators, and protectors. Understanding the many roles of mitochondria helps us better understand how our cells function and stay healthy. These organelles are truly remarkable, playing a central role in the life and death of cells. As scientists continue to study mitochondria, we're likely to discover even more functions of these amazing organelles, further highlighting their importance in biology and medicine. The Krebs cycle, a cellular merry-go-round of energy. This intricate dance of molecules is essential for life, providing the energy that powers our cells and ultimately our entire bodies. Imagine a merry-go-round where molecules hop on and off, changing with each rotation. Each molecule has a specific job, and their interactions are carefully coordinated to ensure the cycle runs smoothly. That's a simplified way to picture the Krebs cycle, a central metabolic pathway that takes place within the mitochondrial matrix. This matrix is a special environment inside the mitochondrion that's perfect for these complex biochemical reactions. The cycle begins with pyruvate, a molecule that comes from the breakdown of glucose, entering the mitochondrial matrix. Glucose, a simple sugar, is broken down during glycolysis in the cytoplasm, producing pyruvate, which then travels into the mitochondria. Pyruvate is then transformed into a molecule called acetyl-CoA, which kicks off the cycle. This conversion is a crucial step because acetyl-CoA is the fuel that drives the Krebs cycle forward. Through a series of enzyme-catalyzed reactions, acetyl-CoA is broken down, releasing energy and producing carbon dioxide as a byproduct. These reactions are highly efficient, making sure that the maximum amount of energy is extracted from each molecule of acetyl-CoA. Think of these enzymes as the ride operators, making sure each step of the process happens correctly. Each enzyme has a specific function, ensuring that the cycle progresses in a controlled and orderly manner. As the cycle continues, electrons are taken from the molecules and picked up by electron carriers called NAD+ and FAD, which are then reduced to NADH and FADH2, respectively. These carriers are essential for the next stage of cellular respiration. These electron carriers act like shuttle buses, transporting the high-energy electrons to the electron transport chain, the next step in ATP production. In the electron transport chain, these electrons will be used to generate a large amount of ATP, the energy currency of the cell. This final stage is where most of the cell's energy is produced, highlighting the importance of the Krebs cycle in cellular respiration.